When it comes to sport bikes, if I had to name one motorcycle that can be credited with best emulating the old NASCAR adage, race on Sunday and sell on Monday, it would have to be the Suzuki GSX R750. First launched back in 1985, the original oil-cooled aluminum alloy frame Gixxer certainly set off a racetrack-ready explosion that's been burning ever since. Fast forward some 30-odd years to behold the newest, and by my count, the 28th version of this now liquid-cooled, fuel-injected, race-ready weapon. Today, the GSX R750's fuel-injected engine sports selectable drive modes. Then there's the sweet Showa big piston fork with its electronically controlled steering damper. And the monster monoblock Brembo brakes. Heck, this fella even has a titanium muffler. All the very latest high-tech goodies stuffed into one package. The same formula that set the industry on its ear back in 1985. So how does the latest GSX R750 work out in the real world? Well, here now is this week's guest road tester, Canada's preeminent road racing journalist, Colin Fraser.
I have to say I'm of a certain era, and I'm sure you are too. When somebody
don't make us seem older than we have to seem, Dave.
No, but when somebody says to me Suzuki, I immediately think GSX-R. I mean, this brand really, this model has really defined to me Suzuki.
The GSX-R was a high water mark beyond any measure in the mid-'80s and continues to drive the market and is a bike that's synonymous with performance.
Now back then you knew you could buy the bike and just take it to the racetrack and practically, you know, take the plates off, go racing. It was that simple.
That's true, but the reality, if you wanted to do well, you know, you certainly would struggle with some of the issues, particularly suspension-wise, and there were a lot of little things that you probably need to do. And to jump right over to this 2011 GSX R750, what's amazing is you could literally ride this straight onto the racetrack. You could ride onto the pit lane, around the corner, wave to the flagman, not change anything, and start riding on the racetrack, and the experience would be fine. Like, that's how far we've come, that this bike is not pretty much track ready, it is completely track ready.
Right. So tell me about track ready, that motor. What's it like when you fire it up for you?
Well, first of all, the bikes don't look as different from year to year as they used to, but this bike is significantly revised, and in this market, with money the way it is, it's unusual to see bikes heavily redeveloped. This bike is, and of course what happens is things just keep getting more compact, better center of gravity, makes the bike easier to handle, and God really is in the details in a modern sport bike. This bike has a lot of performance, but what's really impressive is how accessible the performance is. Not just the engine performance, and it's got lots of power even though it's only a 750, but everything to do with the chassis, the balance of the motorcycle, but for me more than anything, the throttle response. The fuel injection of this bike is so precise, it feels like somebody spent a lot of money with some computer work on the dyno, and it's just right out of the test fleet. It's just a regular street bike, anybody can buy it and it'll run like that.
Amazing. And I guess the other thing they're quite proud of this year is the stopping power. Did you like the Brembo edition?
You know, you can't really try Brembos on the street. That's how powerful they are. You know, we have the best fork you can get. We have the radial mount, full-blown Brembos, not look like Brembos, really are Brembos. Radial mount master, everything's adjustable, very, very precise and very track ready. And if you have experienced true performance in terms of suspension and braking, this is a bike that can give you all of that. And again, it's not close to racetrack spec, it is racetrack spec.
It is, though, street legal. It has a plate on the back. So therefore you get things like mirrors and switchgear. What's all that like for you? Were you paying attention to those things?
Oh yeah, and you know, that's the kind of thing where we've seen a lot of improvement, because as you mentioned, it used to be you took it to the track, you took a lot of stuff off and you went racing, and now a lot of these little odds and ends type pieces are actually very nicely turned out. You have a couple of modes you can put it on, so you have a sort of a take it easy in the rain mode and a full performance mode. Everything in terms of the operation, the controls, the engagement of the clutch, but particularly the throttle. The linear behavior of that bike, you know, what you're looking for in a performance bike if you have some training. It is so nice and smooth and picks itself up so well on the throttle. Very predictable, very accurate that way. And that's something that up until a few years ago you really had to spend a lot of money to achieve.
Definitely when they came to market with these bikes in the mid-'80s, on into the 90s, there were some rough edges. You know, you really felt like there was a race bike there and it was a tool. And then they've sort of got a little better in the fit and finish. What do you think of the finish now?
I think it's well in line with the modern sport bike, and they have come, all of them, a huge distance in terms of the quality. I personally really like the combination of materials. Sounds like we're talking about the inside of a sports car, but you know, we have a few different types of panels, different colors, different style. You'll notice that the frame on this is not in fact black. It's got some tone to it.
Yeah.
These inserts, which I think would be quite good if you happen to tip over in a parking lot or anything, are carbon and quite sturdy. And you look at the foot pegs, they look like aftermarket rear sets. Everything about this bike, it may not be exactly the part you would buy from the aftermarket, but when you look at it, so much of it already looks like someone else detailed it for you, and you haven't spent anything other than what came OE with the bike.
So who would you recommend this bike to?
Well, I think first of all, it's a modern sport bike, so it requires some experience and some rider training. So it's not a first bike,
no,
for sure. It's definitely for a more experienced rider, someone who not just has the ability, but the experience to utilize it and enjoy it, and also the restraint to make sure you hang on to your driver's license.
So overall, how would you sum up the experience today in terms of riding this bike?
It's a very sophisticated, well-polished, extremely fast sports bike. And if you're the kind of person who that sounds like a good idea to, you will not be disappointed.
Nice job. Thanks for coming down today.
It was fun.